Harney Soil and Water Conservation District, along with Hines Middle School, secured an educational grant from Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, or OWEB, in 2011. In 2012, the first outdoor school grant was secured from Gray Family Foundation. These grants provided unique and exceptionally beneficial learning projects for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. In a climate of dwindling school budgets, these grants provided rare opportunities for middle school students to experience real-world, hands-on science that stimulated students to not only apply their science skills, but math and language arts skills as well. This is the story of how these grants impacted Hines Middle School students. The OWEB grant began with a single trip in 2011 to the Northern Great Basin Experimental Range operated by USDA ARS. 6th grade students took a day trip where they learned about how western juniper impacts our watersheds. They collected data on juniper rings, measured tree height, and aged trees. They also learned to texture soils, how to use GPS, and identify different range plants. The next year, in 2012, students in 7th and 6th grades took field trips. The 6th graders went to the experimental range and participated in the same activities as the students the previous year. The 7th graders traveled to Thymer Park, which has Divine Creek running through it. At Thymer, they compared the previous year's junipers data to pine saplings. They counted rings, measured height, and aged pine saplings. They were astonished at the age and height differences between juniper and pine. Also at Thymer Park and Divine Creek, they collected water micro and macro invertebrates, water quality samples, measured the differences in runoff rates between burned and unburned hillside plots, measured steam sinuosity, and learned how riparian plants benefit streams. The 6th graders took an additional trip in 2012 to Camp Magruder, a residential outdoor school in Rockaway Beach, Oregon. This trip was funded by Gray Family Foundation. 6th graders had the unique opportunity to study and compare two different environments. At the conclusion of both trips, students were required to compile and compare data from the two different environments. Students also wrote reports, developed PowerPoints, and gave presentations comparing the two environments. In 2013, the program continued to grow and 3 field trips were taken. The 6th graders again went to the experimental range, the 7th graders went to Thymer Park, and the 8th graders went back to the experimental range where they participated in more in-depth studies of soil characteristics and how they relate to watershed health. The 8th graders textured soils, compared infiltration rates at interspace locations as well as under canopy locations. They looked at soil microorganisms, compared respiration rates of dry versus wet soils, worked with soil maps of the area, and were presented with career options for working in soils and natural resources. Finally, students evaluated soils and vegetation on 2 different locations as if they were land managers wanting optimal watershed health. In 2013, 6th graders again attended a residential outdoor school program, Camp Westwind, funded by Gray Family Foundation. Students were again required to write reports, develop PowerPoints, and give presentations comparing the two environments. Before these field trips, pre-test results showed that Hines Middle School students had very little knowledge of the environment in which they lived or the environment on the coast. Students went from not understanding that what you see above the ground is a result of what is underneath the ground and how that can impact watershed health. Students now have an awareness of the watershed they live in and how they themselves impact the health of that watershed. Because of the trips to the coast, students now have an appreciation of how annual rainfall impacts an environment and how it varies within their environment and what that means to watershed health. Students now view their environment differently. One example a parent shared with the school is that their son, on a recent trip, explained how to roughly tell how old juniper trees are and how they impact our watersheds. These parents were impressed with the knowledge he learned from the field trip, enough to visit with the teacher about the program and commend the work that she and the different agencies were doing to teach children about our watersheds.